Good evening. You're listening to the Fighting News, and we have a very special guest with us tonight, Mr. Damon Gonzalez. He popped in on one of our shows a couple of weeks ago. Tonight, he is our featured guest. We've known him for a while. We love having you on here. We love talking boxing. But before we get to that, I think Steve, I don't know what Steve's doing. I think he just robbed a bank or something, and he's trying to get away. I don't know what he's doing. Yeah, we're keeping our distance because we're all in different places. So you got nothing to worry about there.
It's awesome.
So yeah. So before we start, though, I just want to remind our listeners to follow us on Instagram. If you don't already, please check us out on YouTube. We have a lot of great videos. We have a lot of interviews with boxers, MMA stars, BKFC, all that kind of stuff. And we're growing, and we appreciate your help. We appreciate the fans, and drop a like, follow. You know what to do. Mr. Gonzalez, how are you this evening?
I'm good, guys. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Do you agree with this statement that boxing is back?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, boxing's been back since April. When Bob Arum launched Top Rank Boxing again, when boxing came back in Las Vegas, at first there was a lot of hesitant. Everybody wasn't sure because of everything that was happening all over the country. Will Top Rank be able to successfully pull something off like this? And they've proven all the way across the board, which in combat sports, I mean, let's just take a look at it. Dana White followed Bob Arum's lead, and right away the UFC went into their direction and started to do their business. So you got to give, honestly, credit when credit's due. And it was just, Michael, how are you?
There he is.
Hey,
what's up, Mike?
Again.
Well, yes, I agree. I think there's been some great fights also on the Top Rank cards. What's been your favorite fight?
Honestly,
since the return,
I'm one that I really, especially when we attend these fights and what have you, I'm huge fan of the undercards. I'm a huge fan of the guys that don't get the credit to be on, which we remember some years ago, on the HBO, on the Showtime, on the PBC, Fox, ESPN. The guys that don't get those opportunities, the ones that fight on the card. And what this Top Rank platform gave everybody the opportunity to see was a lot of these fighters in a mix with some of the marquee fighters. It was fun. To me, it was just fun to watch. Not every match was a great match because we know the type of sport we're in. This is boxing. Some matches just aren't matched up correctly. They're not good fights. But the one that stuck out for me, and this is what I love about Bob Arum and Top Rank. You got some of the best matchmakers in the game today. You got Brad Goodman, and he communicates with Roberto Diaz from Golden Boy, and they put a fight together. Top Rank Golden Boy. They put these kids in the ring, and Maloney, supposedly going to defend his WBA, gets licked. He gets beat convincingly by Joshua Franco. And it to me, it was one of my favorite fights of the whole series, because, again, you follow these guys and you see their story as they're growing in the sport. And it was just a matter of time that it was his time. And it was nice. It was very nice.
Exactly. Who took a big step up in this series is that Edgar Berlanga. I think a lot more people are taking notice of him now. And he just, what was it, his 14th knockout now? Edgar Berlanga.
Yeah.
So I'm getting a phone call, but we're gonna.
That's
So
Pizza Hut.
yeah, so it's
Add them to the show, Matt.
yeah, get them on the show. So yeah, there have been some good fights, and I totally agree with you. We're seeing some of the people that we're not seeing the big names yet. I don't think, but a lot of these guys that are up and comers, you see them. It's more up close and personal. I think because they've been having the shows, or they had the shows twice a week. I don't know. I've appreciated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We haven't had a lot of the big names, but we have had. Remember, we talked about the top pound for pound list, at least mine, Matt. You and I were talking.
Yes.
And you have Miguel Burchelt and you had Emmanuel Navarrete. Those two guys fought in the last month.
Right.
Yeah.
Navarrete did exactly what we thought he'd do, but then again, he was, fighting a guy that was definitely not on his level. But we look forward to seeing those guys more.
Exactly.
I just heard about Damon, two boxing events coming to Florida. I just saw on the commission there's one All-Star Boxing is doing an event.
That is correct. Boxeo Telemundo is going to be launching, All-Star Boxing is going to be launching their series again.
Yes.
Starting on the 14th of August.
Correct.
And all the fights will be in Kissimmee, in a bubble.
Yep. I saw that, and also another event I saw also.
There's going to be on the 15th, which is going to be legendary Christina Martin, the coal miner's daughter.
Yes.
She's promoting an event in I believe it's in Daytona. It's going to be in Daytona, and that's with Pain Boxing. Pain Boxing is going to be streaming that event online. So if people are interested, that's how you go about seeing that matchup.
Yep. So boxing's coming back.
Yeah. But I don't know if you guys were talking about it, prior to me jumping on here, but another big fight with COVID-19 positive tests. Did you guys talk about that yet or not yet?
Nope.
Not yet.
No, not yet. We didn't talk about the big fight. I am looking forward to, and I'm glad that Pain Card is free. They've in the past they broadcast right on Facebook. You're able to see those fights, and Derek Santos had a couple of fighters on those cards. Trap fought on there. Dominique Francis. So we're glad that those are on there. Yeah. But let's talk about the bigger fights, Mike.
Yeah, so this Saturday, Showtime was finally going to have its first fight card for the first time since the pandemic. And Stephen Fulton, the main guy, the headliner, tested positive for COVID-19 yesterday. So he is out. And the co-main, the guy that was going to step in for the co-main is now going to be stepping in his place. They've mixed and matched the card. It still doesn't make sense to me, you see, because you have Tremaine Williams now stepping in. He was supposed to be the co-main. He's now going to step in and fight Leo, Angelo Leo, I believe.
Angelo Leo.
The vacant belt that Navarrete just vacated because he decided
to step
away. But then I'm saying, okay, so what does that mean? They're still going to have 3 fights. How are they going to do that? Well, that secondary fight, or that co-main event, I should say, I'm actually looking up for the name right now as we speak, which he was supposed to fight Rais Aleem. And instead of that, you now have a guy named Marcus Bates fighting Aleem. Now, we know Aleem was in the bubble because he was already supposed to be on the co-main. How did Marcus Bates get in there? I have no idea how between yesterday and today, Marcus Bates gets to step in. Unless he was somehow in the bubble with another fight pending, but not, as far as I know, there were no other fights in Connecticut set up.
Well, sure. the one thing, Michael, that I do want to mention is what I've kind of got feedback on is when the matchmakers from the different promotions, they're following suit with, of course, with all the COVID-19 changes and everything happening, they definitely have fighters that are on standby, that are ready to step in and not just sign a contract, but be ready to fight. So that's the one thing that's clearly added to this whole COVID situation, because obviously we see across the board, there has been athletes that unfortunately, have tested positive with this thing. And it's just terrible, man. My prayers to everyone that has to deal with this. And it's just tough all the way across the board. But again, that's what the plan was. If this fight don't work out, and for whatever reason, we have plan B in place.
Yeah.
So you're going to see a lot of that in the next couple of weeks, especially now that Fox PBC launched their fight on the 8th. So I think that's Dome, the Puertorriqueño, the Puerto Rican kid, is going to be fighting against Shango, James, So, it's something that we all kind of have to adapt.
Yeah.
Well,
I know.
When one guy in a gym gets it, it's like everyone's getting that. Everyone gets it.
Yeah, but it seems that some people that have tested positive never got sick from it. Michaela Mayer is one of them. I don't think she tested positive. She was never sick.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think Jamel Herring was sick though. Didn't he have it? He came down with some symptoms for a couple of days or whatever.
Right.
But also in the MMA world, a lot of people have tested positive and never had any symptoms at all. So it's weird. It's strange. But they're doing the best they can.
Well, that's the thing. It's a learning curve for everybody, right? It's like you said, Damon. They have to have people waiting in the wings. I mean, it's just good for Marcus Bates. He gets the opportunity to now jump in and fight on a big Showtime card. He otherwise wouldn't have been able to do that. They're lucky they had a spare fighter there ready to go. And I guess, if anything taught us in the last 7 weeks with what ESPN was doing in Top Rank with all those cancellations like Matt was just mentioning, I guess that's the situation. Now you have to have everybody sort of ready to go. You have to have a plan B, a plan C, maybe even a plan D, just to be sure. You never know.
And in some cases, Michael, there's no plan because in sports in general, guys, come on, the Marlins, are you kidding me? I believe 13 to 14 athletes, coaches, and players tested, and it's tough all the way across the board,
Yes.
So people, I believe, even with boxing, they just have to be a little more patient, because all of us, everyone is trying to make sense of this and listen to the CDC and try to do the best we can. We're just so lucky to even have boxing right now.
Right.
Absolutely. And I subscribe to all those services. I have ESPN Plus. I have DAZN. I even have the UFC Fight Pass. So I'm not gonna miss anything. If I'm paying a little extra now, I don't care. It's still it's a sport. I love it. I still want to see the fights. But what's funny is sometimes when the main event drops out, then all of a sudden you thought you were maybe not just the second fighter, the co-main. All of a sudden now you're a fighter and you are the main event. That's got to be some feeling, because that's happened. That's happened once or twice also during this series.
Well, there it is. We were just talking about for Saturday. Tremaine Williams was going to be a co-main event. He was going to fight a non-title fight. Now he's fighting for the world title, the WBO Junior Federation.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, I believe Paco, the WBO, had him ranked number 6.
Yeah.
So, he took a jump, and a lot of credit to, of course, the team, to Al Heyman and PBC for putting this fight together and making it happen. And, we're going to have ourselves a fight. That kid, Leo, I was in LA at the StubHub. It was Gervonta Davis versus Hugo. And I was ringside shooting that fight.
Yeah.
And on the undercard, I shot Leo.
Yeah.
That kid could crack. Let me tell you, he can crack. So expect a really good fight.
When was the last time you shot an event?
The last time I shot an event, a gentleman did a fight card in where was this? Plant City here in the Tampa area.
Yeah.
And we had a kid that's living here in Florida and training in Florida from California, Blue Chip. He came over here and he was featured on that card.
Right.
It was a bubble situation. We all got tested. Everything was good. And, it was in the venue itself, of course. It was social distance all over the place. They did an amazing job.
Yeah.
For a small fight card, listen, if you go by the rules and you do everything correctly the way it's supposed to be done, it can be pulled off. It can work. And there were some good fights that night.
Did the promotion make any money, or
Well,
it was a
what
bust?
they did was mostly streaming. They streamed the fight card online. Now, as far as what they made and what they did, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
But I know the guy that put it together. He used to live in your area, down in the Miami area.
Yeah.
He was one of the promoters from the Mike Tyson promotion. If you remember when Mike had his
Yeah.
promotions,
Yeah.
he had
Yes.
Lubin, he had Eric Lubin, he had a
Mhm.
bunch of young guys, Galarza. He had a
Yep.
bunch of young kids back then. So what they did was too, there was a lot of like different people that were business people from companies, and they came to this event to raise money. They gave money to a drug and alcohol rehab because the event was in a rehab. It was at an event center inside a drug rehab.
Wow.
So all the proceeds went to help the rehab.
That's nice.
So that was pretty cool what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's nice.
yeah. You
Yeah,
see what Maureen Shea is saying to you there? That New York accent is 100%. Love it.
I haven't even said get out of here. or the best, champ.
That's funny.
So I'm like right now, like I know the big guys, they're making their TV money and advertising money, but for the little guys that want to put on a show and feature all the local boxers, I just don't know how they're making money.
Well, it's hard.
Yeah.
I was on the phone last week with Lou DiBella, and DiBella's not small. He's Lou
Yeah.
DiBella, and he had his series for a few years with Broadway Boxing, and of course working together with Al Heyman and stuff, matching up fights. But because, as we all know, right, Mike, there's no fights in the state of New York. New York State Athletic Commission, ground zero, no fights. So it's suffering. Joe DeGuardia is suffering, DiBella's suffering, meaning that there's no fight cards right now. So it's pretty tough.
Right.
Right. There's a card tomorrow night on Showtime, with Marcos Escudero. He's got a rematch against Joseph George. Did you see their first fight, Damon?
No, I don't think I got a chance to see that one.
It was highway robbery. This kid Escudero's from Argentina, but he lives down here. He trains down here, but he just switched camps, and now he's with. He was with Charles Mooney before, and now he's with Kevin Cunningham and Stacey McKinley. And I guess he's hoping that's going to bring him to the next level. But he beat this guy. I gave his opponent 2 rounds. The announcers gave the opponent 2 rounds, but somehow he lost a split decision, and the fans were booing. Everyone was just going crazy in the place, man. It was terrible. So I'm looking forward to seeing this kid tomorrow. I hope he patched up the holes in his game, and not that he needed to, because he clearly won the first fight, but I'm hoping to see him win tomorrow. So look out for that one. Marcos Escudero.
Yeah.
It's
It's Saturday night, though, on Showtime.
Yeah, Saturday night. What's today? Today's Thursday, yeah.
Yeah. All the days run together, man. I know.
Wow.
Unfortunately, we all had our history of sitting ringside at a fight that in my scorecards, I have it going a certain way. But then when the cards are read by the judges, I remember in the it was in not Mohegan Sun, but the other one. Don King did a fight. It was Holyfield and Ruiz. And I was there at that fight, and I'm scoring that fight. And then the judges read the scores, threw my pen up in the air. I just threw it up in the air, whoop, right up in the air. Next to me, it hit Bert Sugar right in the shoulder. He looked at me, he was like, I said, yeah, sorry, Bert. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny, man. That's a funny story.
Unfortunately, we just have to adapt to the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's just part of it.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. What do you think about this exhibition fight between Tyson and Roy Jones Jr.?
I just had Roy on the show Saturday.
You
Nice.
did. I saw
Yeah.
that. I want to get to watch that.
Yeah, Roy came on, and he's excited. He's happy when him and Mike had the conversations to do something like this. Everybody remembers the Rocky movie when Rocky was in a video game and he was playing Mason Dixon.
Yeah,
And then they decided, hey, let's make it happen. Same thing. This is what's
Yeah.
happening in real time, real life, real reality.
So they're gonna be
Um,
wearing headgear.
I don't know the specifics, but I
Yeah.
do know this. And I'm sure that, right, Mike? I'm sure you guys, Matt, Steve, you guys could agree to this. This ain't no exhibition for Mike Tyson.
That's right.
no, it isn't.
Okay.
I've heard him.
Let's keep it real.
Yeah, I've heard him say a couple of things on his podcast that are downright frightening. It's chilling to listen to him. Talk about how he's got all this anger buried inside him, and he knows that it can come out at any time, and he's scared. And he says it with a look in his eyes, and you know that he means it. So I don't know. It's going to be a show, that's for sure. But
well, see, that's typical Mike Tyson, though. That's just the way he is.
Yeah.
He has to talk like that, right? He's not himself if he doesn't talk like that.
Yeah, Mike's he's always been like that. And this is something that, again, I mean, who don't want to see it?
Right.
I'm not protesting it. I think that if they're able to go in the ring and perform, and I think everybody crystal clear, we want Mike Tyson and we want Roy Jones to be safe, with themselves.
Right.
And I'm sure that both of them have enough experience as Jedis that they can go in there and give us a heck of a show.
Right.
oh, absolutely.
There was a movie a few years ago with Sylvester Stallone and Robert De Niro. Do you guys remember what movie I'm talking about? And they were both former boxing superstars that were long retired from the game.
Yeah, I know the movie. I didn't see it though.
It's just making me think of that movie at this point. You got two huge superstars, and muscle memory. Is it there? Can they bring it back? I mean, look, Roy's only 2 years removed from fighting, and he ended with a 3-fight winning streak. So safe to say that he's probably still in somewhat of a good shape to continue fighting even today. Mike Tyson's been 15 years since he's in the ring. Does he have the muscle memory? Can he come back? Can it come back out of him?
That's a tough one. Because, and I could tell you, last year we sanctioned a fight with the NBA, and it was one of Roy's fighters. In Pensacola, Roy is clockwork. He's doing mitt work with Urbach Jr. He's doing mitt work with other fighters in the ring. He stays very, very active at his age. And that just says a lot, says a lot for him to be able to again, all of them, to put this together and what have you. I'm definitely not knocking it.
Right.
And they say it's going to be an expensive pay-per-view, expensive buy on pay-per-view.
I'm not exactly sure. I haven't seen any of the press releases or anything come through yet. But I mean, everybody's gonna want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope they don't ask $99 like they did for Pacquiao and Mayweather.
No, I don't think it's gonna be like that. I doubt
How are they
that.
going to shape up the card? Who's going to be on that card?
Well, I know that they're doing. Eddie Hearns in Matchroom started the whole celebrity boxing, mixing it in with professional boxing. And the biggest star and celebrity everybody knows, and that I know, is Jake Paul. Jake Paul is one of those guys that has millions of followers.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. In Miami, when I shot the card down there, Um,
It was packed. The weigh-ins were crazy. Everything.
yeah, you
I
were
couldn't
there.
believe it. No,
And
I wasn't there. I saw it though, but it was
the
crazy.
actual fight card when
Yeah.
Jake Paul fought, you know, he's being trained by BJ Flores. And let me tell you something. For a guy that, you know, is at an amateur level, the guy looked it good.
Yeah.
He
Mike was
looked it
there.
pretty good.
Mike was there.
Stuck a nice jab, hooks to the body, and I'm like, not bad. Not bad at all, you know? You got
And
to
he brought
give it
new
to him.
followers.
Takes,
He brought new people into the boxing, like boxing.
there you go.
You know,
There you go.
even the guy he fought, KS1, he brought another hip hop people to the mix. Also, it was I like it. There's another guy that does celebrity boxing. Damon Feldman does celebrity boxing. He does celebrities facing
We
up.
definitely can't take away the entertainment part
Yeah.
because in the direction that boxing's headed, you know, they're going to add these new things and these new components to it. You know, it's just how it's been.
Yeah, and these crossover when the MMA guys want to go in there and challenge the boxers and things like that. That's they'll keep adding those.
I got
to the
something
card.
new today, and now that we have Damon here, it's going to be who can beat Damon in the trivia. So winner gets an exclusive Fighting News gym bag.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
And I'm going to start it off. This is something new. I didn't tell anyone about it, but I'm going to go with the trivia. Raise your hand if you know the answer. First one to raise the hand, just like Jeopardy, is going to be called upon. Who was the one man who ever managed to go 15 rounds with Rocky Marciano?
15 rounds with Rocky Marciano.
The only person to go 15 rounds with Rocky Marciano in 1954.
Floyd Patterson.
Any other guesses?
Got me on that one.
Got me, yeah. That's before my time.
Edgar Charles.
Ezra Charles, I was thinking of him. Yeah.
I have his boxing card.
Boom. Next question. Who ended Marvin Hagler's 7-year middleweight title run? 7-year title run. Matt.
Hearns.
And who ended Marvin Hagler's 7-year middleweight title run from 1980?
Sugar Ray Leonard.
Mike. Ding, 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 ding. Mike's got one.
It's got to be one of them. Yeah.
Hey, Mike's ahead. Despite losing his first 3 fights, who was the longest reigning cruiserweight world champion? Despite losing his first 3 fights.
Bobby Chez.
You're -0.
Oh my God.
Longest.
Who, despite losing his first 3 fights as a professional, who is the longest reigning cruiserweight world champion? I picked hard ones for you guys. All right, Johnny Nelson. Last question. Whoever gets this correct wins. After 93 professional fights.
I got it.
Who was never knocked down during his career?
Oh, never knocked out.
Never knocked down. After 93 professional fights.
Joe Louis.
No.
B-Hop.
No.
I didn't have that many. I was going to say, if you started talking 93 fights, I was already going to say Julio Cesar Chavez, but he's been stopped. So
you and Mr. Marbury Jr. said the same thing. Any guesses? Because Chavez isn't the right answer. No?
93 professional fights. Who else?
George Chuvalo was the answer. I picked hard ones. I thought maybe someone's going to get one of them. So, it's a tie. It's a draw.
Is it? Didn't I have a point somewhere in there? I'm pretty sure I had a point in there, Steve.
All right. So, Damon gets the bag.
All right.
Our guest gets the bag.
Thank you, buddy.
You got it, brother. So sorry,
You're
Matt.
out of luck, Mike.
Yeah, I lost the point somehow. The answer was wrong. I don't know how that happened.
But when you guess the wrong answer, you lose.
Oh, we didn't know that. You didn't give us the rules. Sorry.
You can't change the rules. Steve, come on.
That's all
Hey
right.
guys, big birthday shout out to the IBF lightweight champion of the world, Teofimo Lopez.
Nice.
Teo's birthday today.
Happy birthday, Teo.
Happy birthday!
birthday,
Oh,
buddy.
I should have worn my my Teofimo shirt.
It looks like the fight has been agreed with Teofimo and Lomachenko. I think
Wow.
Lomachenko agreed to 3.2 and Teo got 1.2. So we're looking at October.
Wow.
But again, great fight. Great fight.
Wow.
No official announcement yet, but things got very close. And I'm not sure what feedback you guys got, but I'm hearing about Spence and Danny Garcia.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Let's
What do you
see
think
it.
about that fight, huh, Steve?
I can't wait. Can't wait. I think it's going to be some matchup. And if any of your undercard people that you like seeing the undercards, can you imagine being on that undercard? But straight out of quarantine. That's a nice card to be on, for sure.
Yeah,
I like. So Errol Spence is okay now. He's recovered and he's fine. Yeah, that's going to be a good fight.
He seems fine, but again, it's been a while since not only he's been in the ring, but been in a professional fight. So, it's going to be, interesting to see,
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who do you like in that fight, Damon?
I got to go with old school Philly, man. I got to go with Danny Garcia.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that, because I kind of like the underdog in this fight. I was there when Danny Garcia's knocked out Granados at the StubHub Center in Philadelphia, in Los Angeles, and he went on the road and did that. Danny as a 147 welterweight has been in some wars. Him and Sean Porter gave a great fight at the Barclays.
Absolutely.
I witnessed that one. And that's the type of Danny Garcia you're going to see. You're going to see a true 147 champion like Keith Thurman and all the other guys. He's going to bring it to the table.
Yeah.
So that's what I expect to see out of Garcia that night. And of course, Errol Spence is Errol Spence, man. He's the champion. And everybody knows he can do so much.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's always that thought of, man, is he really recovered? I mean, we have to see.
Yeah.
Danny Garcia's knocked out Granados.
You're playing it back? Okay. Yeah, that's my thought with that. It's kind of like you said. I think Danny's going to pressure him, just continue pressuring all night long. But I think Errol, he'll figure it out. It might take him a couple of rounds because he's trying to get himself back together again. But he's going to push off on that distance. I really think that Errol's going to find a way to keep him at bay and take him out. I mean, just based on the performance that Spence put against Porter and the way Porter was able to handle Garcia, I know it was a close fight. I'm just looking at that notch just above where Danny is right now in his career. And it's nothing against Danny because he's an amazing fighter. I think Spence with that longer reach, with that little bit of a weight advantage on him, it's going to be a little more than Danny's used to because, coming up, Danny was a great junior welterweight as well, used to fighting much smaller guys. Coming up, he hasn't really fought a lot of big 147 guys. This might be a little difficult for him.
Oh, most definitely. Again, his fight with Porter, instead of him fighting tall, he was fighting small.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand that, because he was right in Porter's wheelhouse all night long,
I think he wanted it that way. I think he wanted to prove something to himself, that he could fight Porter's fight. I think he might have said something like that before the fight also.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
I was going to say part of that, though, and people don't get this, and I'm a huge advocate for Porter. and I'll sit here and stand behind him till the end of time. I think Porter is one of the best welterweights in the world.
Totally agree.
And
Sir.
He may still yet be that best. It's just Errol Spence landed that good shot. Without that good shot, what are we looking at at Porter's career? We're looking at the loss that he took to Keith Thurman. Don't think he lost that fight. I think he won that fight. And then he had that really close fight when he originally lost his belt. The Brit, what's his name? Kell Brook, right? That was a close contest all night long as well. And, Kell Brook is nothing to be ashamed of with a loss behind him either. But I think Porter's still in it. He's still huge in that mix. And Danny putting on a good performance against a Porter may prove that he's ready to fight any of the champions that are out there, simply because Porter's better than people give him credit for.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that 100%. I think honestly, Mike, Steve, Matt, if I had a dream fight I wanted to see, it would be Sean Porter versus Terrence Bud Crawford. That would be the fight.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That would be the fight. You know why? Because you're going to get the best of the best of the best from Crawford, and I mean that.
Mhm.
And you'll get the best of the best of the best from Sean Porter. You're going to get nothing but an amazing fight. And I'll be honest, I'll be hard to pick a winner in that one.
Yeah.
Right.
Really hard. Even though I may give, Bud a little more of the edge, because Bud is just dying to fight one of these guys. So other than that would be a matchup. I would love to see that matchup.
Right.
Yeah, they have to put that together because I think a lot of boxing fans want to see that fight. In fact, it's probably the number one most requested fight out there, outside of the heavyweight division. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of people want to see it.
But it's going to have to be a belt back at 147 on the line to do it. But I want to see Mikey Garcia step back up once again to welterweight and take on Porter. That's a fight.
Yeah, the 147's a hot, man. That's a hot division. I mean, come on, guys. Big shout out to the up and coming Virgil Ortiz Jr.
Yeah.
He was in there with a guy that I think he literally hit him with the kitchen sink. He hit him with everything, and he kept on punching. I love those fighters, man. Those fighters get me emotional because all they want to do is fight you. And he gave Ortiz the opportunity to show the world how great he was. And that's what I liked about the fight. Now, as far as what I've heard, him calling out the Keith Thurman and those guys and what have you. Come on, let's put things in perspective. I think it's more of Ortiz maybe against Ugas, a guy that's a 147, but I'm not saying he's at the same level, Ortiz. Don't hear me wrong. But what I am saying, you want to fight tough? Fight this guy. Before you mention those names, fight this guy, because there's guys there that are just as dangerous, just as hungry, just as awesome.
Yeah.
So again, it's a hot division. My goodness.
Yeah.
Did you know Marbury Jr.? This a friend of yours? Damon?
Marbury Jr. Marbury in 1998, he won the NBA Intercontinental Super Middleweight belt.
Wow.
In 1998. He knocked out a guy in the 9th round. It was in Punta Gorda, Florida.
Wow.
So he's actually one of the old alumni from the NBA.
Wow.
He would like to see Bud and Gary Russell.
Yeah, that'd be something. It would be.
That would be great. That would be great. And I'll tell you, there's been stuff going on this past couple of days. Gary Russell went public, was saying some stuff to Crawford, and now Crawford went public. So there's been some stuff lately with those fighters,
Yeah, so we got a lot of fights that we want to see. What about the heavyweight division? What do you want to see in the heavyweight division?
I'm gonna bring that up too. Yep.
Who do we want to see there?
Yeah, Damon, as far as the heavyweight division is concerned, Steve's bringing it up. It was something that was in the back of my mind as well. So just sort of like what you said, like Virgil Ortiz having to go through some of these other guys like Ugas if he's thinking about going after belts. So this is something I brought up on the show in the past about the heavyweight division. So you got these guys at heavyweight to the top of their division, great. But let's say Tyson Fury, he wants to call himself and consider himself to be the best at heavyweight. You're going to have to go through each guy that's on that top 10 list or top 12 list, in my opinion. If you can say you can't just beat the guy who beat the guy and then say, I beat everybody. You have to beat that guy that was beaten, because any given Sunday, so to speak, anybody's going to beat anybody. And that's been proven very often in the heavyweight division recently with, guys like Andy Ruiz just coming out and winning a belt where nobody expected it to happen. So the heavyweight division is just a surprising division. If you're not going to beat everybody, you can't say you're that guy.
It is, but it's a slow moving boat.
Yeah.
It's not a speedboat. The fans, I'm sorry, we cannot, or let me say this, permit me to say, the boxing world, I believe, cannot speed up the process. If it was up to me and I was the shot caller, I would personally like to see Fury fight Joshua for all the belts. Personally, unify now. Do it now. And then we can call the one and only undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. In the breadth of names like, so many, Ali and Tyson, so many people. But then that winner can fight Deontay Wilder. That winner can fight Andy Ruiz. There's so many options. But again, it's a slow moving boat.
Right. I would rather see. Yeah, I would rather see Tyson Fury fight Joshua than fight Wilder again. I don't have a lot of interest in that. Me personally, I'd rather see him fight.
It's unfinished business, and Wilder is deserving of getting those shots over and over.
Yes, he is.
Of what he's done in his career. So I think they just have to finish on unfinished business. But the fact that they've already talked about, as much as people like or don't like looking ahead, that Fury has already signed a 3-fight contract here. He's got the Wilder rematch, and he's got 2 fights next year already with Joshua. Those things are already signed. And at this point, all he has to do is get through Wilder to get to those 2 fights. Now, that's a tall tale. That's a tough test, I would say, to try to say you're going to get past that. I know Fury's not looking past Wilder to say he's going to get to Joshua. But honestly, if he beats Wilder and he does it pretty decisively, I don't think he's going to have that much of a problem with Joshua, because I still say that Wilder's a better fighter than Joshua.
Well, I can't disagree with that. I had the privilege to interview Deontay Wilder many times, and you know what? As a person, I like him as a person, and what he's done in the boxing world. How can you not recognize that? Yeah. How can you not recognize his knockout streak? The way he's been, Stavern, you just go down the list of heavyweights they kept on throwing at him. Brazil, they kept on throwing heavyweights at him, and he kept on one after the other. And this has been since the beginning of his career, when he started fighting on Fox Golden Boy cards to PBC. It translated into the whole PBC scene. And he has defended that WBC. He has done everything right as a heavyweight champion. Joshua's doing that. He's defending his 1 belt against the fighter over there in London. And, it's just what they need to do. It's a slow boat, Yeah.
Right. So David, when you're at these fights, you said you had a scorecard. So you do that you score the fights.
I'm old school. I have a bag that has copies of boxing scorecards, the old ones, like and 10-9 and 10-8. I score the fights myself. Sometimes I get lazy. I use an app. iPhone has a scorecard app, and you can score the fights.
Yeah, so that's
but
so that's cool.
I like to always, and that's the old school in me. I like to give my own scoring of how I think the fight turned out.
So you do it all there. You're reporting, you're shooting, you're judging.
It's not easy to do.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Multitasking.
I mean,
Yeah,
I in my head
Damon,
say,
I'm
oh
gonna-
well, I have this guy ahead of this guy. You know, the rounds in my head, but you know that you do a lot over there at each fight.
well, if you ever run out of pages in that book, all you got to do is get over to a bowling alley and pick up some of the bowling scorecards. You know, think about it. They're all, it's numbered, it's 1 through 10, and then you got that extra, you know, the last column's got a couple extra columns in there. And
when was the last time, Matt, you saw a bowling scorecard? When was the last time you saw one of those?
Boynton Beach.
Boynton Beach has the actual scorecards, not the TV.
Yes, they do.
Wow.
They have both. The one by the Dunkin' Donuts.
That's real old school.
Well,
I haven't seen a scorecard in a long time for bowling.
I was going to say, Damon, I want to jump back to the heavyweights again for a minute, because as we were just talking about Fury and Wilder with that rematch, and the danger is, again, Fury having to get through Wilder to try to get to Joshua. But on the other side of that, and this is the one I think is more interesting, is that Joshua has to get through Kubrat Pulev, because that fight still has to be remade. It still has to happen. And I've been advocating for Pulev for years, talking about what a great fighter people don't know that he is. I mean, Pulev's only loss, as far as I know, was to Klitschko. And, I mean, Pulev, if you're talking about how Andy Ruiz beat an Anthony Joshua, if Anthony Joshua shows up anywhere near the way he was in that first fight with Andy Ruiz, Kubrat Pulev's going to go through him. Pulev's bigger, he's heavier, he's taller, he's got a heck of a lot more experience, and I think he has a harder punch. He may not come forward quite as much as Andy does, but Kubrat Pulev is an amazing fighter that is probably deserving of a belt himself.
Hey, definitely. Any fighter's punch, you know, can change everything. And that night, just to touch on it, and me born and raised in New York, Michael, I had the opportunity for years to work, you know, Don King's fights with all his heavyweights, and watching, you know, Chris Bird, watching Fresa Kendo, John Ruiz, watching all these guys go at it back then. But that night, when Anthony Joshua came to the United States of America for his debut, and Andy Ruiz came in the ring to fight him, that was a special night for boxing in general, because not only that, just any fighter that fights a championship fight in the Mecca of Madison Square Garden, there's nothing more but history to do that. It means that you made it. You're on top of the world. You fight in the Garden, you're on top of the world. There's no question about it. And in front of a sold-out crowd, in front of the whole world watching, rooting for Joshua.
Yeah.
Ruiz shocks the world.
Shocks the world. True Rocky
Shocks
story.
the world.
Rocky story right there.
And Michael, listen, my opinion, who cares what happened in the rematch?
Yeah.
Honestly, who cares? Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is that night was special, and he did something out of pride for his fans, for Mexico, for everything. And he shocked the whole boxing world. You cannot be one of those persons that you were right there, not like, because I was blown away, screaming to the top of my lungs. I mean, how could you not love that? You know, and that's one thing I love about boxing.
Just the moment, the moment when he picked himself up off the ring, he had that look on his face, like he just looked up at Joshua, and then he just got up, and you know, he was stunned for a second, and then he just got right back, and he just took it to him. You know, that was a great moment.
That will never change. You can probably, and I'm gonna take a wild guess at this, but it's definitely probably true. You can go to a Knicks game or Rangers game, go to the second level and get a popcorn, walk in the hallway, look up and see a big, gigantic photo of Andy Ruiz celebrating that knockout win, because it's part of Garden history.
It is.
You know, this in the breath of the Michael Jordans and so many things that happened in the Garden. How can you can't change history?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And for at least a glimpse of time, we actually had all the belts back here in the United States.
Yeah.
For a minute. We had
Oh,
it
yeah.
for a minute. You know, we may get it
Definitely.
there again at some point, but yeah, that was for a minute, right? And that was it was definitely an interesting fight.
Yeah, one of your fans is mentioning Uslik. Let me tell you, dance on, Uslik, because I'm super excited to see Usyk fight in the heavyweight division and to see what he's gonna bring, because
Undefeated.
that's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun. For a while, the heavyweight division, it felt like it was flatlined for a number of years. You
Oh,
know,
absolutely. Absolutely.
but
Not
now
anymore, though.
you just have, even with the young talent, you have Jared Anderson coming out of Top Rank. You know, Guido, the Italian heavyweight. You know, it's got these big guys that are just showing up and doing their thing, and it's exciting.
Yeah, and who's the guy? Cheney, the guy that knocked the other one out of the ring.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's. I don't think he's lost a fight.
no, I don't think so either. But I'll
Yeah.
tell you, all the way across the board, when I flew out last year to London and I shot, Matchroom had me on the ring at the O2 Arena. That's an amazing place. You want to talk about electricity? That was amazing. And it was Regis Progress versus Josh Taylor. I shot, the heavyweight fight that night, and the Dylan Whites and those guys over there. Let me tell you, those guys can fight.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can fight. So it's like, you hope and pray that these matchups, they just be made for the sport.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Well, you just mentioned Josh Taylor, so looking to see a Taylor Ramirez unification would be amazing. I know Ramirez just set up a fight date to defend his belt. Judging by he can get through him, hopefully get that Josh Taylor Ramirez unification.
I think that's going to be a collision course. That is not going to be denied, that fight. That is not going to be denied.
Steve, you just throwing up names when I see you typing this. Joseph. He's in the, like I said, there's like 13 or 14 guys on my heavyweight list right now. Any one of those guys could be standing there holding up a championship belt within the next 18 months. I mean, they just need the opportunities, and they have to fight each other. As I mentioned, you got to have a guy. He can't just say he beat the guys who beat everyone. He's got to beat those guys. So there's, it's a long career for any heavyweight that's right now on top. I know that Tyson Fury had said a couple of fights ago, 3 more fights and I'm done. And then he relented. He kind of backtracked after his last fight, and he said, I'm good. What else do I have to do? I could probably fight for another 10 years. I hope that's true. I hope that he does, and I hope that he actually takes on the right fighters each time he steps in a ring.
Yeah, and it takes so long to get these fights put together. It takes so long.
Well,
Damon,
definitely. Go ahead. What?
I know you said you had to go at 8.
No, I'm good right now. I got a few minutes.
Oh, you got a few minutes.
Yeah.
All right. I was going to give you your last words. Yeah, I mean, when Luis Ortiz came down to Florida to fight, we saw him in a main event. I mean, that was very exciting to me. I mean, wow. It's always great to see a heavyweights get in there, man, because at any 1 second, the haymaker can come and it's lights out, even if they're losing the fight.
Yeah, Wilder was in the audience that night, and then they had words. They had words afterwards.
Yeah.
Ortiz and Wilder.
That's Stevie. I think that was the exciting part because, I mean, Ortiz is here. He lives down here.
Yeah.
So that's why we see him so often. But, yeah, for him to fight, that's because everything kind of fell into place with that card. He's talking about the card that took place in Hialeah, Damon, if you remember that last time Ortiz fought down south. And it was only because he had that suspension, and then they decided to shorten that suspension. There happened to be a card that was coming up. They're able to stick him in the card. I mean, we already had planned. We already had our credentials. We were already going out to that fight before he was ever put on that card. So we got lucky to be able to see him that night. And of course, with Wilder coming in, like Matt just said, that was great. I mean, I got great video of the two of them just standing, face to face in the ring, kind of exchanging words, as much as they didn't understand each other as much, but they were exchanging words all the same. And sure enough, that led to that first fight that they had, which, was one of the best heavyweight fights we've seen in years.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the one trainer guy, he's part of the promotion that does the fights there. M&R, I believe.
Yeah.
M&R Promotions. Well, that trainer guy, he's a great guy. He was training Luis Ortiz years ago when he started, and I remember them bringing Luis Ortiz to Tampa, and he fought in the Alicante Pavilion in Tampa. This young guy, big, strong guy, and he won by knockout that night.
Yeah.
Remember seeing him. I actually have shots I took of him that fight years ago.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
And I
That's
think
good stuff.
And I want to pronounce it right. So it's Mayberry Jr., right? That's who the fan is that's watching us right now, Mayberry. And,
yes.
And I saw a comment come up about Ortiz versus Ruiz. And yes, by the way, just to touch on that for a second, that's a fight that I've had in the back of my mind also for a while. I would love to see that fight. Those two guys would match up really well against one another. The winner of that moving on and doing bigger and better things. And those are two perfect opponents for Usyk, by the way. I mean, they're the right size for him. They're the right kind of competition that he needs to see how good can Usyk be. I mean, he's got that height disadvantage with a lot of these guys, so he's more Mike Tyson-esque with his physical ability. Can he fight these guys, even 6'7"? I mean, could Tyson, if he were active and his peak today, could he beat a guy like Tyson Fury? I mean, Tyson always struggled a little bit with these bigger guys, and Matt and I talked about that before. Those are the guys he normally didn't knock out. Those are the guys that ended up going the distance. He struggled a lot with Lennox Lewis. He struggled a lot with the bigger 6'5" and above guys. So could he contend with a guy like Wilder or Fury? That might be hard to ever figure out.
Right. Well, even early in Tyson's career, when he was a killer, those were the guys that he wasn't knocking out were the really tall ones. So, yeah. So he always had trouble with that. And you're right. Usyk is going to have, he's got to beat that level first before he goes on to guys like Wilder, Joshua, or Fury.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think.
Matt, I'll tell you personally, if I want to see a fight, if I'm going to roll the dice and say, hey, I'm going to put my money on this fight for the heavyweight division, I want to see a fight against Usyk versus Babyface.
Yeah.
Okay? Adam Kononki from Brooklyn.
Yes.
Those two I want to see fight. Those are the type of heavyweight fights I want to see. I want to see skill, speed, brawl. That's in the whole nutshell. Those two can do it all in the ring.
He was supposed to fight, and what was it? He didn't get to do a fight.
No, that's the other guy. That's Big Baby. Yeah, we're talking. Yeah, that's the other guy. We're talking about Adam Kononki. I like him as a fighter, man, and he is fearless in the ring. That would be a good fight for Usyk, I think, for sure.
Look, his fight versus Chris Ayarola, in the Barclays Center. Mm-hmm. When those two cracked and went at it, it reminded me of White Lion versus Layman Brewster. That's the fight it reminded me of. And when those two went at it, I'll tell you right now, Chris Ayarola, that guy, he's the one that should be in the mix with fighting a Luis Ortiz. Yep. He's the one that should be in the mix to fight another tough guy like that, because there's so much to move around. There's so many good names, And I want to give a shout out, not to shift gears, but I want to give a shout out, honestly, to Ryan Garcia, lightweight Ryan Garcia.
Yeah.
Because this kid and his team were able to land this fight against Campbell. And they were able to put this together. And now, you know what? Me as a boxing person, as a writer, it just makes me feel so good that we can say, you know what? Now you're fighting somebody great. We can
Yeah.
get to see how great you are now. And when they get to that place of their careers, it just speaks volumes. It says everything about the courage and the heart and the type of champion they really are. And to me, that kid's truly a champion.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great, and he's got the charisma. He's got the following. He's got 1 billion Instagram followers. So he's good for the sport. I'd like to see him do well. Definitely. He just put more fans in there, and he's good for the sport.
And that's it. If he can get through a guy like Luke Campbell, I mean, if he can get to that next level, it's great. It's great to have anybody added to that mix, like you're saying, Damon, because then it creates multiple fights. It's not just one more fight to have, because now you're talking about putting him in against a guy like Lomachenko and against Lopez, Devin Haney. There's so many great fights that could be made at lightweight. Ryan Garcia may not really be there yet until he fights a guy like Luke Campbell and beats him and puts himself in that position. But great to see it.
Michael, a step-up fight I want to see in the lightweight division after what I witnessed and saw on TV at the Bubble in Las Vegas. Felix Verdejo, the way he came in and the way he looked, training under, of course, trainer Salas in Las Vegas, the way he looked in the ring a couple of weeks ago, I want to see Felix Verdejo versus Devin Haney.
That'd be great.
I want to see that fight for the WBC belt. Honestly, definitely want to see that fight.
I'd like to see Devin Haney against anybody. I think he's
that's kind of what I'm waiting for. It gets to a place where you see the social media, you see, okay, you're doing this, I get it. But I want to see the fights. It's time to fight. It's time to put these matches together and put these kids with some good competitive fighters.
Damon, we got a question from one of our own, the Fighting News photographer, Gerardo Ramos. What's
going on, Gerardo?
Wants to know how does he break through to get to shoot ringside at a event like you do?
It it took some years. In the beginning I studied. Ringside working in fights. It's not just the main events. It's the undercards and it's meeting people and what have you. And when back in the day, I used to study people like Ed Mulholland. He's the photographer for Matchroom.
Yeah.
But for years, he photographed for HBO. And also, when I met him...
UFC also he does.
Yeah. When I met Ed, he shot Ricardo Mayorga. And this was when Mayorga debuted with King. And he knocked the guy out. And in the press conference after the fight, Mayorga came in with a beer and a cigarette. He started smoking the cigarette at the press conference, and we're laughing. This was at the Sovereign Center in Reading, Pennsylvania. And he started goofing and laughing. And Ed took a flip phone out and took a photo of him on the podium. That photo went into Sports Illustrated.
Really?
That's kind of how Ed got his start.
Yeah.
So through the years, again, people like Ray Bailey from New York, so many, Tom Casino, for many years he shot with Showtime. So many people that I knew and I learned and I asked questions. And it wasn't later in life where I started to really shoot photography. And I have a lot of great people like Alex Menendez, Lester Silver, Joseph Carrera, so many different people that have always been humble enough to teach me things and show me things and what have you. And, I just started and here I am. I just love what I do. It's nothing like it. Getting the shot, the moment.
Did you get it? I missed it.
If it's not a knockout, it's the celebration.
Yeah.
Right. Have you seen Gerardo's work? It's all over our website.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely see his work and just keep on punching. Keep on punching.
Yeah.
Love what you do.
You'll definitely get there, man, because he could have gone to the DAZN card, the last one at the end of January there. and for some reason we didn't get our act together until the last minute or whatever. But if he would have got in there, got some shots there, there'll be opportunities.
Yeah.
The M&R people love him.
Yeah.
So Gerardo, hang in there, buddy. He'll definitely be there.
Stick
And
with
his
the
work
fighting
is great.
news. Damon, if you ever need someone to shoot, Gerardo will go with you. He'll fly with you anywhere.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, Damon,
Uh-huh. You got a question?
I know that we kind of touched on it, but we really didn't go into too much depth. And I think before you go, I wanted to make sure we talked about this. So going back to Mike Tyson and Roy Jones.
Okay.
All right. So I have no idea. In your opinion, do you think this is even going to be a fair fight? And when I say fair fight, I mean, are they going to let them fight? Or is this really just a showcase for Mike Tyson because he's trying to move on and do bare knuckle and things like that?
Well, I think that with the respect of both of them as legends in the sport, they both have astonishingly accomplished, everything in boxing. The good, the bad, and the ugly. But I do think, it's gonna be an exhibition. The California State Boxing Commission will definitely make sure that both fighters hold their end with professionalism, to be professional, and knowing who they both are, I'm sure they would follow through and follow suit, because this is big for both of them. It's big for both of them to be able to entertain the fans in this level with this idea, so you can't take that away from them.
No, I agree. I just don't know if, when it comes down to a scorecard, if they're really going to be fair, because they know it's looking like it's just a showcase fight for Tyson so he can move on to things. But realistically, if it's a fair fight, all things even, I actually think Roy Jones is going to win this fight. And
he's going to knock him out in the first.
Nobody seems to think what I think, but Mike Tyson's going to try to start fast. That's what he's going to do. But we know it's an exhibition match, so does anybody really want to see Mike Tyson step in and knock out Roy Jones in 30 seconds? That's not really what they're looking to see, especially if headgear is involved. It's going to be a little more difficult to do that. So I think as time moves on, and we're going to start to see that Roy Jones is conditioned just a little bit better, in my opinion, I'm guessing. And I don't know if Mike Tyson can throw that flurry of ridiculous shots like he's always been able to do in the past for a long period of time. But Jones is going to be able to keep him. Jones, what he does. He after a few rounds, he starts getting relaxed. He starts hanging that right arm real low, kind of, that Roy Jones style that we've all come to love. And he's going to get comfortable with him. And because he's got that longer reach, he's going to try to keep Tyson at bay. Tyson's going to come forward. Jones is going to keep him at bay. I think if it gets into beyond the third round, it's a fair fight. I think Jones beats him.
Well, let's just say this, and I say this, with all respects of the sport. If we had an announcement tomorrow that Oscar De La Hoya will come out of retirement and he's going to fight Felix Tito Trinidad in the second fight and an exhibition, my ass is going to Puerto Rico, Vegas, wherever it is, to sit ringside and watch or shoot that fight. Because they're two loving, respectful champions. And, at the end of the day, Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. are legends. They're legends. Yeah. And it's going to be humbling to see the bell ring and those two guys touch gloves and go at it and just fight their fight. We know the type of style and fight Tyson brings, but we also know the type of style that Roy Jones brings. Right. So for the first time in boxing history, we'll see those two styles together in the ring, sharing the ring together. So even though it's at a more disciplined stage of, I don't know if you want to use the word, Mike, performance, but be as it may, I'm excited to watch it.
Right. And I'll tell you, not to give away my age, although I think I'm probably the youngest one on this panel right now, but 1996, November 1996. I was sitting there at the press conference. I had no business being in because I wasn't even media. I just sort of snuck in. And I'm sitting there in press row, and I'm asking Roy Jones Jr. a question 2 days prior to his WBC light heavyweight title fight against Mike McCollum, right? They were opening the brand new Ice Palace. They used to call it the Ice Palace.
Yes.
Where the Lightning were playing. The very first sporting event they ever had there. 17,000 people in attendance that night, by the way. It was a madhouse. A lot of fights in the stands. But 2 days prior, press conference. And here's this kid over here jumping up and just interrupting the whole press conference saying, oh, hold on. I got a question. I said, rumor has it that you're planning on fighting Mike Tyson. Is this true? Can you tell us if that's true? And this was just something that, people were making up. It really wasn't anything that they had really materialized or even thought about. And he kind of looked at me, and I think first of all, was trying to figure out why I was even there because I didn't look like I was press. And then he said to me, well, we don't know. Anything's possible. You never know. And then nobody wanted to ask a question after me. Like at that point, everybody was just sort of still. So I said, okay, I got another question. Can you elaborate on that and tell me, do you want that fight? Is that something that you're looking to? I kept pressing him for an answer to have that fight. And I think, they were really thinking rumor-wise that maybe they would go down that road and have it. But, after the McCollum fight, I think what happened with Roy Jones. He fought Montel Griffin and the DQ fight, and then he had to come back and he had to fight him again, and it sort of delayed the process of the inevitable of him trying to move up as an undefeated fighter. And I think he moved up to heavyweight a little later than he wanted to. Fight never materialized, unfortunately. But, when I heard it announced, all I could think back to was 1996 and how this was supposed to happen then. And decades later, all of a sudden, we're going to have this fight that we wanted to see back then. They're not at their prime. But definitely worse.
Mike, which is going to be a fight after Roy Jones fights Mike Tyson? You know who he's going to fight?
Who?
Roy Jones Jr. is going to fight
Tarver.
Anderson Silva in an MMA event.
Oh, come on.
It's been his dream.
Well, you never know. And look, that's the thing, right? That's the idea. Does Roy have a reason? I mean, obviously there's a reason to win it. But if he wins, is there something else on the table for Roy? Has anybody been talking to him? Because I know people have been talking to Tyson about things like BKFC. But have they been talking to Roy about potential things for him? I mean, again, only 2 years removed from his last fight, 3-fight win streak. There could be some things out there for him. Maybe there's an opportunity for him elsewhere, in boxing or out of boxing. We just don't know.
To just comment on Mike Tyson, again, he's a legend, and I don't get into any boxer's personal life and business and stuff like that. But I do want to express that from my observations and what I've seen since last year, his business, his work business, and what he's doing, he's making money. And I mean real money. Good money.
Marijuana business?
Yes. He's making very, very good money.
The ranch? And
there's really, honestly, no reason why he should do any of this. But you got, it's who he is, and we can't take that away from him. So
you know how much marijuana he has to sell to make $10 million?
I don't know any of that, but I do know is that September 12th they're going to entertain all of us for sure.
Right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like you were saying before, just to watch him put the gloves on and step into the ring and like you said, touch gloves, and it is going to be exciting. It's definitely going to be exciting because we watched all of his fights, every single one of Mike Tyson's fights, every single one. No matter what or where, we didn't miss a Mike Tyson fight back in the day.
Hey, wait, the best is yet to come, man. Let's not spill all the beans, but come on, guys. Don't you see Evander Holyfield?
Yeah.
Look at how great Real Deal's looking. He's doing some serious training right now.
Yeah, he's been in shape. I was in the Heavyweight Factory a couple of years ago, and I saw him training, and I saw he was doing like upside down sit-ups, like hanging upside down. I'm like, man, because I know he's how old is he now? 54 or something like that. Holyfield.
He's up there, man. He's up
man,
there.
just for anyone that age to be to be training like that is incredible. I mean, it's really something. It is inspiring, and we had Glenn Johnson on here, and we see him on. I was talking about him on his Instagram. We always see him training and hitting the bag and running, lifting weights, and all that. So these guys are still, it is inspiring.
Evander's 57.
Yeah,
he's 57. So he was probably a couple of years ago. He was probably 53, 54.
Tyson's 54.
I remember I had a conversation over at Lucky Street, Heavyweight Factory, whatever you want to call it, with Riddick Bowe and Evander Holyfield. We were all sitting there together. And I forget, Bowe had said something. They like to tease each other. These guys are really good friends.
Oh, yeah.
You've ever seen them together. They're like Laurel and Hardy. But we're having a conversation. Bowe said something. Holyfield turned to me. He goes, man, I'm 60 years old. I can't be doing things like that. And I'm thinking, I think he was just elaborating. He was exaggerating his age a little. Or is he older than people have always thought he was? It always made me wonder because he calls himself a 60-year-old man. But like you said, in great shape. Anytime you're at the Lucky Street gym, you could see him shooting hoops right outside. They have that freestanding basketball hoop. If you've ever been out there, he's out there in his jersey, he's shooting hoops. He's in great physical shape. A lot of the videos that we've seen, though, that they've been posting, that we've been seeing live, he's wearing different outfits. He's doing different things. It's like bits and pieces of different trainings. So I don't know, like with Tyson, how long is he able to hold a flurry? How is his stamina really when he's trying to stand in a ring and fight for three straight minutes for even 8 rounds? Could he do it? It remains to be seen.
Is it going to be an 8-round or 6?
This exhibition is 8 rounds, right? I believe Tyson and
I think it's 8 rounds.
Okay.
8 rounds.
8 rounds, yeah.
Well, he smokes a lot, and he's on that podcast. He's constantly smoking. That's got to take some of your cardio away. That has to take your cardio away. That's got to be effective. We'll see, though. I think the adrenaline will carry him through for 8 rounds or however long.
I mean, Holyfield, when he was ending his career, which I think was probably about 7 years ago, probably around 50 years old, if I'm not mistaken. He was going through a streak of losses, unfortunately, and they weren't A fighters either. And they got to a point where they just couldn't license him anymore. And that's really the essentially end of his career. He tried, he did what he could, but for whatever reason, he didn't have that ability to just beat those guys and get over that hump. So I don't know. I mean, all these years later, has he found something in him that can propel him back to where he was 15 years ago, as opposed to 7 years ago when he was less capable? It's hard. It's just like the whole Tyson conversation. It's been 15 years since the man was in a ring.
Well, I'll tell you what, Michael, there's a lot involved. And, Evander, to me, again, one of the legends, one of the heavyweight legends, humbling to watch him fight in the ring years ago. And now kind of the point I'm trying to say is, holding the torch, showing the boxing world, here I am. But at the same time, you have Evander Holyfield's son that's now a pro fighter.
Yeah.
That's breaking into boxing. That's inspired by his dad. Yeah. And it's just a great story. It's just an incredible storyline.
Have you seen him fight?
I personally haven't seen him fight live yet, but I will.
Yeah. He won his first 2 pro fights.
He might have been on I think he was on one of the Payne cards, one of Christy Martin's cards, wasn't he?
Yes, I believe he was. Yeah, I believe he's signed with Kathy Duva in Main Events. Main Events has him.
Okay.
It was one of those 2 fights. It was a 7-second knockout, if I'm not mistaken. You saw him step up, knock the guy out. That was it.
Yeah.
It was nothing.
Good kid, humble like his dad. He's very humble, and again, it's another future star growing in the sport.
Right.
If I had the choice, looking at this entertaining Roy Jones, Mike Tyson, if there was an entertaining fight I would want to see a heavyweight, let me call it out. You ready? I would love to see Vladimir Klitschko versus Lennox Lewis.
Yeah.
That's the one I would love to see. That one never happened.
Wow.
No.
It never happened. And I would just love to see it.
Right. It would be nice.
Oh, yeah.
And then you got Shannon Briggs over here getting ready to fight BKFC. He's getting ready to get his fight together.
Let's go, champ.
Yeah. Let's go, champ.
Let's go, champ.
Any of these other former
the
heavyweight
champ.
champs or contenders want to step in to a BKFC circle and they want to, take him on. It would be nice to see it in that capacity. I mean, look, Briggs, it's amazing for that sport with all his first round knockouts throughout his career. He's perfect for bare knuckle.
Yeah, I feel bad for the person going against him in bare knuckle. I really do.
Yeah.
Well, they still don't have an opponent. He still says Shannon Briggs in October.
Big shout out to the president, David from Bare Knuckle. They just landed a big deal with DAZN.
Yeah.
DAZN, right?
Yeah, yeah. Very excited for them.
Huge,
Yeah.
huge.
And they gave away their last fight for free. They didn't even charge for it, the last card.
Yep.
Yeah, you just you had to download the app or whatever, but it was still free.
Yep. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Hey,
Yep.
guys, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on this evening.
Let's hear some last words, Damon.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for following, us at LatinBox Sports. We appreciate all of you. Keep on punching. The fighting news, man, follow them. They're awesome, good friends, good people in the boxing world. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.
Thank you so much, Damon.
All right, thanks, Damon.
Thanks,
And,
guys.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing your show with Roy Jones. I want to listen to that. So
Yeah, check it out. Check it out. It was pretty cool.
yeah. All right, have a good night, Damon.
Thanks,
Good night,
Damon.
guys.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
All right. See you soon.
Bye.
Take care.
So
Yeah.
I don't know where Matt went, but
But
yeah,
that was
great
good.
show with Damon. Wow, he's got a lot of boxing knowledge.
He
for
does.
sure.
Look, there's a lot of things I would love to have talked to him about, but we would have been here 3 hours.
Yeah. No, listen. When we talk boxing, Damon's great to have on for sure.
Yeah.
He's very knowledgeable. Knows about all the local events, all the even away events. It's great. And he's in close with all the Latin boxers out there also, which is good. But yeah, that's our show. We were on 4 days this week. We tried it just to see how it went, and we had thank you Damon, thank you Louis Baboon for coming on, and
Marcos Escudero.
what
Marcos Escudero.
Marcos Escudero, he's fighting this weekend.
He's fighting this Saturday.
This
Showtime.
Saturday.
He's going to be the first televised fight on that card, everyone. So tune into Showtime, 9 p.m. Saturday. You'll see Marcos open up the show.
Yeah.
A lot of good fights. A lot of good fights coming. So if you guys aren't paying attention to it, Top Rank obviously had their Tuesday, Thursday series. They went through that. That's done. Not going to see that anymore. They're going back to their normal schedule now. They'll come up with fights when they have the better ones. And not to say the other ones weren't good, because they were. But you've got, again, August 1st, that Showtime card. You've got four of the fighters are undefeated that are fighting on that three-card night. August 22nd, you've got a huge fight in the light heavyweight division, an elimination fight between Eleider Alvarez, the guy who knocked out Kovalev, and Joe Smith Jr., the guy who ended Bernard Hopkins' career. Those two guys, crossroads fight. Winner's going to get a title shot. Be in the mix with a lot of fighters in a very deep division. You've got other fights coming up soon enough. We're just waiting for the dates to confirm. Like Damon mentioned, Teofimo Lopez and Vasily Lomachenko. I mean, that's the best fight you can make in that division. You got Sergey Kovalev and Sullivan Barrera coming up. Just waiting for a date for that one to be locked in as well, and several others. There's just a lot of things going on. Boxing's coming back, guys. Pay attention. Unfortunately, some of these things are being pushed back because of COVID testing. Some of these guys are coming up positive, like, for instance, the one on Saturday night. But around all that, if you just bear with the sport's going to be good to us the rest of the year, I have a feeling.
Yeah, and thank you, our Monday guest. It seems like it was so long ago. Ben Stark, BJJ. Thank you from American Top Team for coming on the show. And we had a great show. And believe it or not, we might have a special guest tomorrow night, Mike. Friday night.
Okay.
So stay tuned. When we confirm the guest, we'll for sure announce it. And then we'll be on 5 days this week. We got something to talk about. We talk about it. Thank you everyone for listening. Follow our sponsors. FusionCBDProducts.com. Mention the Fighting News for your 15% off at checkout. They have all your CBD needs. They have the CBD water. They have the CBD vape. They have the CBD before workout, the CBD after workout. They got a bunch of products for sure. Go on that. FusionCBDProducts.com. Check them out. And,
check them out.
So Marbury Jr., he just closing words. It's the first time ever he's been on a live show. He loves the sport. And how does he get an alert when we are on? Well, that's a great question, Marbury. Thank you for asking. We are on Facebook, The Fighting News. We're on YouTube, The Fighting News. We're on Twitter at The Fighting News. And our website is thefightingnews.com. So if you subscribe to, let's say, Facebook, like us, and when we go live, you get a warning saying that we're going live at what time. And also on YouTube, you get a notification saying that we're going on YouTube. Great questions. Great talking to you. And Marbury, so, send us an email with your contact information. And for sure, we're going to get you on the show because we love boxing fans and could tell us some old school boxing stories for sure.
Yeah, and
love to have you on the show.
Just to elaborate on what you just said, so on Facebook, we do try to post something on the day of the live show earlier in the day to let you know it's going to be live and when. Normally, and I think we're sticking with this, it's a 7 o'clock time. That's usually the live show. We don't know exactly what days every week. This week it's been every day. But look for it. If you look late afternoon, just try to check the Fighting News Fighting News page. If you see that it says we're going to come on at 7 o'clock, we'll come on at 7 o'clock. We're still working on like a countdown when we go live, so we don't start talking immediately, right, Steve?
Right.
On something so they can let people filter in before we start the show. We'll get there.
This is the Fighting News drawstring backpack that Damon won today for being our guest on the show. Thank you so much, Damon. I'm going to put that in the mail. And I got the new hats came in the mail today. The Fighting News camo hats came in the mail today. So we're going to be giving those out. And we also have the Fighting News straight out of quarantine, brought to you by Fusion CBD face masks. And those are going out also to all our fans. So, closing words, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, a lot of boxing coming your way, everyone. Just pay attention, starting with this Saturday night, that Showtime card, that first Showtime card since the pandemic has begun. It's a 3-fight card, all televised, starting at 9 p.m. You've got a great rematch from a fight that a lot of people thought should have gone the other way in their split decision last year. And you'll see that opening the show before you start to see a couple of undefeateds in the co-main and main events. WBO Junior Featherweight Championship is on the line. That's the belt that Emmanuel Navarrete has vacated as he moves up in weight. It's open. It's up for grabs. Stephen Fulton was supposed to fight for that belt, tested positive for COVID. So instead, he's been replaced. You got a couple of good probably a couple of good bangers that are going to be fighting on that card. As I mentioned, August 22nd, big fight in the light heavyweight division. And you got some more fights as well that I'm probably not even bringing up even before then. But stay tuned to it. Keep track of it. Listen into our show. We'll keep talking about it, and enjoy the fights.
And once again, follow The Fighting News on Facebook, The Fighting News, YouTube, The Fighting News, Instagram, _fighting_news. The website, of course, these guys write, Mike and Matt, and some other reporters that we have write some great articles. It's thefightingnews.com is our website. Bunch of sponsors are on there of ours. And sign up on that website on thefightingnews.com. You can sign up, put your email on the bottom, right on the top of the website. You can put your email, and every time we post a new article, you get an email about it. Marbury, you also can go to our website, thefightingnews.com, and type in your address and sign up to the Fighting News. And every time we do an article, which is a great idea, we're going to start doing that, Mike. When we are going live, we're going to post it on our website, so everyone that is on our email list, we have about 7,000 people on our email list, they're going to get an email saying we're going live with who, which guest. So once again, thank you so much for watching. The Fighting News out. Tune in tomorrow.